Sorry. Oh, no. Oh, I must have bumped. Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting of March the 12th, 2024. Please stand if you are able and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Some matters for your attention and clarification before we begin. Emails were sent to you today regarding these three matters. Firstly, there is a new cloud-hosted system for running our agenda and minute taking at tonight's meeting. Please be patient as we transition to this new way of doing things. Secondly, we need to make any statements regarding conflict of interest just before the item to be debated rather than at item 7. I will give you a reminder at item 7, but if you have a declaration of conflict of interest to be made, it must be made just before we begin debating that particular item. Thirdly, there is the matter of point of order. These are made related to procedural matters only, not in reference to tone of voice or don't agree with a comment that's being made. In other words, when you believe proper procedure is not being carried out, it must be directed at the Mayor or the acting presiding member at the time. It must be followed by an explanation of that breach of procedure according to the meeting procedures or local government proceedings at meetings. The point of order must be dealt with immediately and the ruling of the Mayor or acting presiding member is final, not up for debate. There are guides for the usage of points of order and conflict of interest on your tables in front of you for support during this and following meetings. And now to the agenda. We have one absence this evening, an apology from Councillor Harvey. I'm just going to remind you now about the declaration of interest, which I have already explained to you. I seek someone to confirm the minutes. Councillor Dawes, you're moving the minutes. And a seconder, please. Councillor Hallett, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We have no public presentations tonight, and I will go through the reports and see if anyone wishes to withdraw any for debate. First one is 11.1, Burnside 2030 Strategic Community Plan. Councillor Davey. Minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Davey. Second quarter budget review. Councillor Davey. Burnside Retirement Services Incorporated Rules Amendment. Councillor Dawes.
Can I move? I'm sorry.
You're moving it. Thank you, Councillor Dawes. Seconded by Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, we shall go back to 11.1 on page 4. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to move an amendment to this, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to send it through. And the amendment reads that Council 1 endorses the Burnside 2030 Strategic Community Plan and the Environmental Sustainability Strategy. And 2, includes implementation of the Environmental Sustainability Strategy 2024 to 2028 as part of the CEO's KPIs. Do you need me to wait while that? Okay.
Yes, if you haven't said it in advance, it's with the new system
Sorry,
particularly
I didn't have it.
takes more time.
An opportunity. Do you need some help with, because it's now a 1 and a 2.
I think it's with this new system, it's really important that if you have an alternative that you send it, I'm not having a go, but it's really important that you send it through early so that it can be cut and pasted.
I'm aware of that.
Rather than
I didn't
at
have
the
an
last
opportunity.
minute, we're having to try to start it from scratch.
Thank you, Mayor. I am aware of that, but it sometimes isn't possible to do that ahead. I'll speak to that now. I thank the administration for all the work that's been involved in revision of these strategies. They've come up very well. There's been a huge amount of interest from our community, with strong responses of 273 people, 84% supporting the strategic plan and 81% supporting the environmental sustainability strategy. But the most important one to me is the environmental sustainability strategy, which is particularly important with the implications of climate change that we're undergoing at the moment. So that, of course, preservation of our natural environment is essential, along with community emissions reductions, management and enhancement of our canopy cover, and improvement of waste management and recycling, for example. These are all critical for our city to be a leading environmental custodian. This means we have to be really alert in our budget setting and long-term financial planning so that we allocate appropriate funding to ensure these initiatives are effectively delivered in council services and projects in response to the Burnside community's needs and more broadly in terms of the climate. So that's why I thought it would be appropriate that we include these in the CEO's KPIs to drive that. I think I apologise that I haven't had an opportunity to discuss this with the CEO himself or the members of the CEO Review Committee, but I think I would appreciate that this be included. I think it's really important that we oversight it from that particular position as well as our viewing, but that the CEO can drive this himself. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Councillor Hubel, are you seconding?
Yes, happy to second your worship.
And
no,
you're going to speak now? Or?
Just a question at this stage,
Okay.
if that's okay. And I'm just thinking on the fly here. I haven't been able to look up exactly where we're at with the CEO KPIs. Where are we at on the cycle with that? And perhaps this is a question that maybe your worship you can answer as a member of the CEO something committee.
I'm going to actually hand that over.
I think you get what I'm asking.
I do not understand what you mean. I'm going to hand that over to Mr. Spearman.
Through the Mayor, thank you for the question. Currently, I'm advised that the CEO KPIs, the early draft, will be going to the CEO Remuneration Committee or CEO Review Committee in April. And so that'll be an early discussion consideration, and then that's then considered as part of the CEO's performance plan come June and adopted typically around July.
Does that answer your question? No. Councillor Hallett.
A question, please. Do we actually need to include number 2? Because I'm assuming that it would be part of the job description and that the existing KPIs would cover it. Do we really need to spell that out? I mean, I would have just assumed that the CEO was responsible for overseeing the delivery of the strategic community plan and the environmental sustainability strategy.
For fear of sounding like I'm entering the debate, I'm going to also pass that one on to Mrs. Spearman.
Through the Mayor, yes, I'm advised that in the CEO's position description and what is inside of his key result areas of his performance plan is the implementation of strategies such as this.
So it's already in the KRAs, not the KPIs, but the KRAs.
That's correct. This isn't named specifically in his KRAs. However, delivering the strategies in general is.
All the elements are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. Could the CEO remind the Chamber about the proposed KPIs and which ones align to environment or align with that element on strategy?
Through Madam Mayor, I haven't got my KPIs in front of me. Whether Ash or Matt can help me out. Perhaps just share the environmental KPIs that are there. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, yes, Ash has just passed them up, and so there aren't any drafted for the next financial year yet because it's still at early stages, and that'll be considered early on in April with the CEO Review Committee. However, the environment ones for this financial year are, first of all, ensuring ongoing mitigation of corporate greenhouse gas emissions to meet carbon neutrality by 2030. And the other KPI for environment is monitor and report on tree canopy coverage and advance canopy improvement strategies.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I'm happy to support this motion. I think it is important, and I know that the CEO would also probably think it's important, that all of these principles and the community theme, the environmental theme, the theme of place, are all uppermost in his mind as he's going about leading the community and the team with which, who are on staff, so that we can achieve all of these goals on page 27, which I think are critical actually, and I'm pleased that all of those residents actually made their views known. So I'm happy to support this because I think the CEO will be a leading environmental custodian for this particular strategy on behalf of all of us. So thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm a member of the CEO Review Committee with Councillor Harvey and Cornish. Thank you. Sorry, my mind was... And what I would prefer here, in fact, what I would think is appropriate, is that first of all we take this idea back to the CEO Review Committee for discussion. And I just checked my diary. It is April 29. To me, I think it's KRAs rather than KPIs, but whatever. I think when there is an amendment to an area which is the responsibility of a committee, we first should go back to that committee and say, well, what do you think? And then come back to us. I think that's a lot better approach for whether it be audit or whether it be CEO review or whatever. So if I'm probably seeking a variation or something like that. I don't want to move an amendment, but whether we could, number 2, first of all, refer that to the CEO Review Committee in April, I think would be a better approach.
That would require this motion to be voted down and an alternative motion put up.
Unless there's a variation.
Sorry, are you accepting a variation to this, Councillor Davey? So can you reword it then, please?
recommends to the CEO review committee that this be...
Councillor Jones,
Is it my turn?
Thank you, Harvey, thank you. I could say then recommends consideration. So this is a new 2. And tell me, Councillor Dawes, if this is in line with your... Recommends consideration. Oh, right, so it's... Thank you, yes. Recommends consideration that implementation of the environmental, it's actually environmental with a capital E and it's environmental, capital S sustainability, capital S strategy, be referred to the next meeting of the CEO Review Committee. It's very hard. How could we get this without... Or just delete consideration. Recommends that implementation of the environmental strategy be referred to the next meeting of the CEO Review. Do we need the full name of the committee? It is that now. Thanks. Thank you. I'm happy with that. Are you happy, Councillor Dawes?
Right, so anyone else wishes to speak on the alterate or variation of the motion, original motion? If there's not, I'm going to go back to the mover.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your help and consideration. I'm very happy with this variation. I think they're both very important. The Strategic Community Plan and the Environmental Sustainability Strategy, which actually I did want the dates put in, actually 2024 to 2028, if you could include that, are very important drivers of our work for the next few years. Our community has endorsed them, they're happy with them, and I think, and I would be very happy to see the CEO Review Committee consider with the CEO how he is able to incorporate these into his drive, so that he's able to drive this through in terms of particularly funding, the long-term financial plan, and how we manage all of that process in council so that our environment is front and centre. Thanks very much.
All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Now, Councillor Davey, again, 11.2, page 28.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation on page 28. Sorry, was there a problem? No. I thank the Audit and Risk Committee for all the work that they have done in terms of their consideration of our budget position and how we need to position ourselves in the current climate and in the face of our deficit isn't the right word, but the funds that we owe. I'm also, yes, so I think that's a very strong recommendation. We obviously need to workshop it more, get some more information from the staff. The administration have already started the budget workshop process and we've got 3 more to go. But I'm happy that we go along these lines in accordance with their duly considered recommendations. There is one matter that they raised in the committee that I'm not sure about and whether that needs to be considered later on, and that was how we are managing our contracts in terms of, I think this is page 35. The internal audit report identified that we have some issues with contract management, and I'm not sure how we will be managing that. I draw that to our attention because I think that's quite significant. It means how our contracts are fulfilled, quality assurance, and then how we're getting value for money in essence. So I'm very keen to see how we improve that and whether we need to review our policies or structures accordingly, attract more staff, I don't know. But I'm happy with the report that's been received, and I'm happy to recommend the staff recommendation to you.
Councillor Hallett, are you seconding?
Oh no, I've got a question.
All right, I need a seconder first before I can let you ask a question. Councillor Turnbull, are you willing to second the motion?
I second the motion, but won't reserve my right.
All right. Now, Councillor Hallett, if you hit your button, you can ask your question.
I've got a question in regard to the recommendation itself, and that's number 2 of the recommendation, and it lists 3 dot points. Is it actually saying that we need to do all 3, or is it saying we can do 1 of or 2 of, or what's the meaning there? Is it actually saying, are we committing to rolling out those 3?
Through Madam Mayor, I think it's important to recognise it's purely a recommendation from the Audit Committee. I think their purpose here was to perhaps help point council in the direction, to give them some assistance in perhaps looking at areas that they thought would assist in achieving the goals we're seeking to achieve. So it really is at council's discretion. I think, and I'm just going to work through the 3 dot points, the 50% contribution, that was seen as the way of ensuring that if we are going to borrow money, let's lever as much other people's money in for large projects. The elimination of new capital expenditure projects. Now, if you take that as a statement in isolation, that sounds quite harsh. On the night, I did make some commentary saying that I think you wouldn't want to eliminate perhaps minor, smaller capital projects which are benefiting our community. You don't want to have this as a broad brush across our total operation. But again, I think they're just suggesting to council, have this lens across your budget when you are considering it. And I really think that was aimed at perhaps our higher level capital expenditure items. And the 3rd dot point, ensuring service levels remain within council's...
Sorry, can you just turn your mic off, please, Councillor Hallett?
The 3rd dot point, ensuring service levels remain within council's current operating budget. That, I think they were quite deliberate in this point about saying, before you look at expanding your offerings to the community, let's get the budget position consolidated, and once we've achieved that, then look at expanding services if that's council's wish. But I would reiterate, it is a recommendation. It's not, this isn't locking council into an approach, but it's just a strong recommendation for council to take on board. Thank you.
I'm going back to the mover. Seconders, list the chance.
Could I just have ask a question too while I've got it? In relation to part 2 to the 3rd dot point, can I just ask what the current operating budget is for maintenance of the current service levels? Please, some idea of the figures for that and how that would be possibly reduced.
Through Madam Mayor, that's quite a difficult question to answer because what they're saying in broad terms here is whatever services you're offering to the community out of our suite of 120 odd, and whatever that costs you, at whatever the level is you're providing. So this is encapsulating verge maintenance, it's encapsulating the quality of service we provide to CHISP, for example. So it's a broad statement across every service we provide, just making a comment that before you look at enhancing a level, have a good think about that. So I can't put a dollar figure on it because essentially you could argue that it's, if you take out capital, it's our whole operating budget, which is $50-odd million. So I can't quite articulate every individual service in that as it pertains to that statement.
On page 31, right at the top, there's a dot point that says the need for greater transparency in reporting the cumulative impact of council's resolutions on the budget. What does that actually mean, greater transparency? Yeah, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, happy to take that question. It was a suggestion that came from the Audit Committee, and it was with regard to, if we think historically, Council adopted its budget last year, at the beginning of this financial year, and then during the year, we've made decisions which have had a budgetary impact. And the Audit Committee recommended, and I quite like the suggestion, that, for example, say as part of Mr Birch's monthly finance report, we might have a section of that which just keeps an account of every budgetary decision that's made during the year, and also putting a equivalent rate rise percentage against that. Now, the way that would work through, so for example, if there's 5 decisions during the year where council increased its operating budget, in essence, just assume that came to 0.5% of rates. In essence, the council would need to increase its rates by its long-term financial plan plus that 0.5% that it had committed to during the year to take into account those decisions. So it was about, one, keeping it top of mind, so I think it helps for council to have that clear, but it was also creating this discipline that whatever you're committing to during the year is going to have an impact on your next year's budget, whether you like it or not. So it was about keeping a transparent approach to that aspect. Hopefully that's clarified.
Now, Councillor Jones.
Look, I only pressed my button after Councillor Davey asked the question about bullet point 3 because I thought I could shed some light on it. There was one member of the Audit Committee who thought we should conduct a service level review of every service we provide. I would have to say the other 4 members of the committee were unconvinced and felt that if we did a service level review, we'd probably increase service levels, which would cost us more money at a time of budgetary stress. So we came up with this compromise just to remind people the budget's under pressure. If we add to our service levels, you're going to get an even bigger rate increase.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of work's been done, and the Audit and Risk Committee has recommended that there is a need for council to limit new capital expenditure unless there's a 50% co-contribution to the project. There's a need to develop a debt reduction strategy for both fixed term and CAD loan facilities. There's a need for council to raise rates significantly this financial year, with the goal of a rates increase between 8 and 14%. There's a need for council to become financially sustainable. There is a need for greater transparency in reporting the cumulative impact of council resolutions on the budget. The council, again, I'll say the council needs to implement a debt reduction strategy, and to do this, rate increases need to be between 8 to 14% in the next financial year. They are recommending to us as council that there needs to be a 50% grant funding co-contribution for all new capital expenditure, and that this is funded in accordance with the Treasury Management Policy, being fixed-term loans repayable within 15 years. The committee stated that council would struggle to remain financially sustainable into the future if we don't deal with the debt issue now, and it's imperative that a debt reduction strategy is implemented now, which allows council to catch up on the years of 0% and below CPA rate increases. So I recommend this to you as a framework for us to start considering all these issues as we go into our budget deliberations, and hopefully you'll support it. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now, Councillor Davey again. Councillor Davey again, page 43, second quarter budget review.
Thank you, Mayor. I recommend, in accordance with the recommendation, and I just had a question. Yes, it's about uniform presentation of finances, page 58, where all councils in South Australia have agreed to summarise annual budgets and long-term financial plans on the same basis. And I just wondered if I also had another couple of questions, but I just wondered if there's a template or a formula for this, and are we going down that track along these lines? Thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, there is the uniform presentation is exactly that. So there a template that all will follow, and yes, we will absolutely be doing that.
You have a second question?
Thank you. Yes, page 60, under capital projects report, there's under new and upgrade, there's open space new for a figure of 41,500, and I just wondered what that was in relation to, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll throw that over to Mr. Spearman.
Through the Mayor, the open space new was a variation that was done at the Q1 adjustment, and that one was for the quotations for the Penfold Park irrigation works that came in higher than we initially budgeted.
I've allowed 2 questions. I'd like I seek a seconder before I allow any more questions or anyone else to speak. Councillor Cornish, you're seconding. Do you wish to speak now?
I'll reserve, thank you.
Thank you. Might need to be now. All right, I'll go back to Councillor Davey then.
I have nothing further to add, so I'm happy if you move it. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We've already dealt with 11.4, so there are no questions on notice. There is one motion on notice. 13.1 on page 103, and that's Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping to advocate for a motion that not only promotes environmental sustainability, but also fosters a sense of community cohesion and support. The motion at hand proposes the establishment of a community exchange hub for used goods within our city. As many of you are aware, our residents currently have access to only one free annual hard waste collection, which is available on an on-call basis. However, in today's world where the view of reduce, reuse and recycle is more important than ever, this approach seems insufficient. hoping we can do more to encourage and facilitate the reuse of items in good condition rather than simply discarding them. The proposed Community Exchange Hub aims to address this gap by providing a designated location where residents can drop off gently used items and where others can pick them up. This initiative not only promotes sustainability by extending the lifespan of goods, but also encourages a culture of sharing and community involvement. The motion also calls for the investigation of a repair hub supported by a volunteer program. This hub will provide a dedicated space for residents to bring items in need of repair, thus supporting the circular economy and reducing waste. Also leveraging the skills and expertise within our community through a volunteer program. I hope you all support this and take a step towards building a more sustainable area through our Volunteers Repair Hub. Thank you.
Councillor Hubel, you're seconding. Do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Your Worship. Not at this time.
Right. Councillor Davey?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to support this motion. I like the idea of an exchange hub, even though, as has been pointed out in some information that we've been provided, we do have the Garage Sale Trail campaign, which is very much a money-making exercise where people hold garage sales for sale of lots of clothes and household goods. I really like the idea of a community exchange hub where I assume this is money not changing hands, but it's more a collaborative swapping system. So I'd be very interested in a report on the possibilities of that. The other issue that I'm very keen on, and which I actually moved in the last council, is a repair hub. The existence of, I think they're called repair cafes, which already exist in Campbelltown, Unley, lots of places, thank you, are well established, and they utilise, as Councillor Zing has said, the assets that are in the community already, where we've got people who can repair metal things like bikes, weld and do all that, can repair jewellery, can repair porcelain or the china, valuable china that you've got. Perhaps even do some sewing and repair of clothes, which is what we want now to recycle. Anything that we can do to repair and recycle and reuse objects that we love or want to pass on to someone else and keep using. So I know that we've got, from my community, we've got people with these abilities and who I'm sure we can harness as volunteers to synchronise with perhaps what the other councils are doing. I don't know if this would be a project that the Eastern Regional Alliance could coordinate, but I think there's lots of information we could receive in looking at the feasibility of a volunteer program and using what skills we've got in our community. I think it'd be a great idea. So hopefully you'll support it too.
Councillor Jennings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting this. I can only speak highly of the Adelaide Repair Cafe, where you can bring in an item that is not working as it should be, and there is generally a bunch of people who are happy to look at it, and more often than not are really happy to get into it with a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, and they will do it right in front of you. And you can learn, and you can take home what you've learned, and you can then fix it yourself if it breaks again. And at school, I wasn't taught to sew, and I really should have been taught it. Luckily, I was a bit of a rat bag, and I was sent off to Army Cadets to straighten me out, and I learnt to sew there, but only buttons. And I still don't know how to use an overlocker, and I should know how to use an overlocker. Somebody knows, and there should be somebody there who can teach difficult people like myself how to use them. Otherwise, it's a mystery. Alchemy. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you, Mayor. This will be an excellent project to get underway. was mentioned in the last time of council. I remember the green shed at Canberra was talked about, and I've seen it in action down at Mount Gambier, where the gently used, I love that term, gently used things are brought in a trailer or a car. Volunteers go through them, take out the good stuff, and the bad stuff gets ready to go out to the tip. But there's not much left by the end. And at the end, once a month, they put it all in a shed, they clean it up, price it, etc., and sell it off. And the queues to get into that shed on a Saturday morning, once a month, go around the block because they sell everything so cheap, but it's reused again, and it's great. So I would really support this, and it would also hopefully get rid of my pet hate, which is bits left out in front of people's houses, like baby chairs and things like that, old couches and stuff. Not even that, even smaller stuff. They don't know what to do with them, and so they dump them out and hope that somebody will come and get them. Usually they do, but that would perhaps alleviate some of that problem too. So yes, terrific idea, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Colleagues, maybe it's my frugal Protestant upbringing, but I don't throw anything out until it's knackered. And look, I see no evidence of market failure in the second-hand market for gently used items. There's all kinds of online marketplaces where they can be traded and are traded. We've mentioned these garage sales. We could have a car boot sale perhaps, but I just think this, part A certainly, is, I fear, impractical because yes, former Councillor Davis used to mention the shed they had in Canberra, but it was a big shed, let me tell you. It covered hectares. So I don't think that's quite likely to be practical for Burnside. And I do fear that it will just be used a bit like our roadside dumping previous, where you just stuck everything on the side of the road. All kinds of crap will get dumped there. It's not going to be gently used stuff. You'll get every man and his dog from outside Burnside will come and stick this stuff in there, and we won't have a viable market. We'll just be left with a lot of stuff that we have to pay somebody to take away and destroy. So, look, I don't hate the motion. I think it's impractical. I think there's no evidence of market failure that government needs to intervene in it. The repair cafe, yeah, fair enough. I think lots of us have already asked about this in the past, and councils never quite managed to get it to work. And to be honest, there's one in Campbelltown, there's one in Unley, there's one in Adelaide. They're not that far away. Yeah, it's like, is there really a need for it? Probably not. I think we can just piggyback off other councils. So, regrettably, it's a no from me, but I suspect it will win.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have some reservation because I see that any items, used goods, are currently donated to Lions, whether it's books or furniture. Lions do a lot of fundraising through this channel, and it's all money that is invested back into the wider community. Another organisation just this week was on radio, Second Chance. They actually, and I've often referred clients in my previous life to Second Chance as a place where they could go to actually obtain gently used furniture. And these are at low cost to people who are transitioning in the housing space on a low income. The big shed at Campbelltown, Rotary at Campbelltown, have a space where one can donate or give to Rotary, and they actually sell off in the marketplace to residents, and I believe it's very popular. You can also donate to, I've actually get lots of emails through Rotary Club of Adelaide, to people want to donate medical or other items that are superfluous because they are in excellent condition, hardly used. Unfortunately, the people they were bought for are no longer with us, so I direct them to another Rotary Club where those items are then referred off. I've just directed medical items to a person who's collecting for community in Ukraine. So there's all manner of avenues for gently used goods. The other item, the Repair Cafe, I did recently visit Clarence Park, which is the volunteer-run program for the Unley Repair Cafe. It was busy. It was all of these people with various skills around the room, and people were actually watching their items being repaired. There were people waiting. There was a cafe in the corner. I don't disagree with this option. I think in our area where we have identified where there are other repair cafes, maybe it could be done under the ERA banner. Maybe we could all join it together with skills and have one in the eastern suburbs. But at least I'm happy to support the investigating the potential of a community exchange hub and a repair cafe. But I really would caution against taking over Lions and Second Chance and their promotion and fundraising in this space. So thank you for bringing the matter to our attention.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a lot of what Councillor Jones and Councillor Wilkins have said I was about to say, but I'm happy to wait for this report in October 2024 as to whether it is practical. So I love thought bubbles, and this is a thought bubble with good intentions. So that's the reason I like to support it. If you go to the Salvation Army store on McGill Road in Kensington Gardens, you know, they're having tremendous problems with lots of dumping going on. So this one I'm hoping won't happen with us, and this is where I'm looking for a good administration report that actually covers that. But what is of interest to me is where that designated location will be. And secondly, is more what Councillor Wilkins was saying. I don't want to cut across the current Lions and Rotary programs, because they do a lot of work. And so that comes to my main concern is volunteers, because they do have a lot of volunteers and they do raise money for charity, etc. But I'm happy to wait for a report in October 2024 and let's see what administration comes back with.
Councillor Corn.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to offer a slight amendment if I can, and I do apologise, this is on the fly from some of the commentary, and you might accept it as a variation, Councillor Zing. In number 1, could I add the word free to receive one free annual hard waste collection, just to correct the sort of the language there? And could I add a D to number 2, which is explores options for joint programs with ERA Council members?
So this will become the motion because both the mover and the seconder have agreed to this. As soon as we get it up on screen, and I've got Councillor Hubel next to speak. Do you want to speak on this alteration first, councillor Cornish? Or variation?
Do I get a chance to speak again, or
Well, you've just done the variation. It would be sensible for you to speak now, before I invite others to speak.
2.5 minutes.
It's justifying your variation.
Oh, sauce.
And, oh, sorry, Lillian.
Take them off.
Yep. Thank you. Happy to support this motion to investigate that. I've obviously added a few little things. I'd like to see the report as well and see what it does. I do have concerns regarding the others in this space, hence why I suggested maybe we can look at joint programs. I know certainly we take volunteers for a lot of our programs from other council members. You know, they don't live in the city of Burnside, so the city of Burnside residents could actually go to Norwood, Campbelltown or Unley and you know, go to these cafes there, and we can send our residents there and promote them on our website as well. So, you know, we can work together with a series of these cafes around the place. Potentially you might even get specialisation in some of them, being one electrical, one wood, one kitchen products, those sort of things. So you never know what will happen, but I'm happy to investigate a little bit further about this and see what we can do. It's you know, it's something small, but it'll have a big impact at the end of the day, I think. So look forward to seeing the report.
If this gets up, it's certainly very easy for us to raise this as an issue at the next ERA meeting. Councillor Hubble?
Thank you, Worship. Good debate and discussion tonight. I think we've been quite productive with where we're going with this. And I think the wording, explore, investigate, really will give administration a little bit of a mandate to turn their minds to some possibilities here. And I've actually, the way this motion is put forward actually fills me with quite a lot of anticipation with what administration will come back to us with. You know, it really is, there is a lot of these sorts of communities online already. I think, you know, most notably, I think the Buy Nothing groups, which exist globally, are very active. I certainly know the one that I'm a member of is very active. But I think us getting involved, and this is a little bit of the role of government in setting the tone for the communities, us being involved in a similar kind of undertaking, I guess, promotes this kind of practice to the community. So, I mean, ideally we would think, okay, we'd have a service like this, but it wouldn't be used because people have other ways of going about achieving the same ends. But I think if we can jump in and get the ball rolling for a few people, I think that's a really good, I think that's well within our role as a local government. I think it's important this takes the form of facilitation largely. I mean, notwithstanding, you know, 11.2 this evening where we received recommendations from the Audit Committee, we really are on, you know, tightening our belts land. So I think we need to just be really mindful of that. But look, I think this is absolutely brilliant. And thank you, Councillor Zing, for your initiative in getting this into the chamber.
Councillor Hedge?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question or two. Was this initiative raised by our surveys our annual survey, that there is a need? Is there data showing us that there's a need that the community want this council exchange system? Community exchange.
Through Madam Mayor, I haven't got that answer. Mr. Cairn, do you have some insight?
Through your worship, yes, to an extent. This is just one avenue to try and receive it. There is a greater need for a reduction in waste and to reuse and recycle items. This is one avenue to do it. You will have seen in some of my emails over the last week, including today, we are looking at a trial with a charitable organisation to do a similar service with the current hard waste service, which will look at items before it's taken away to see if there's anything that can be salvageable, mended and reused at that point. It was raised by Councillor Zeng through, I think, discussions with his community. I'll let him say that in his summing up, though. And he has spoken with the administration with respect to the motion, and we've assisted him with bringing it together. There's certainly some that I think there's value in looking into further, and there's some that I would probably say, just looking from the outset, that would be very difficult to achieve, but we can include all of that in the report back to Council.
Oh, thank you very much. May I just another question? Thank you. Just to clarify, because of the it's Community Exchange Hub. So Councillor Hubel mentioned, yes, there are lots of organisations around the country doing exchange programs. And yeah, the Director of Environment and Places also mentioned it in a way. In particular, there's this big national network called the Community Exchange System, and it's right across the country. So I'm wondering if this is what this is about as well, that we would become a member of the Community Exchange System Australia organisation, because they've got a lot of resources. Or could this be an option in the report that we investigate that partnering with organisations? Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
Question about the completion of the motion. It might just be a technical issue. I just want to make sure before we vote that we've got the complete motion, because part 3 is not complete. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's all clear. Thank you.
Right, there's no one else here, so Councillor Zeng, you're ready to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Davey and I have certainly been approached by many members of our community in the Kensington Park ward and locally in reference to the national organisation. I'm not quite sure how to best address that, but I suspect we'll be working with ERA locally. That's definitely something practical from a local government perspective. I think this will best address the pressing issues of waste management, but also aligns with our shared values of sustainability and community engagement by exploring the establishment of a designated location for the exchange of gently used items and investigating the feasibility of a repair hub supported by a volunteer program. We're taking concrete steps towards a more sustainable future. Through this initiative, we have the opportunity not only reduce waste, but also foster a sense of belonging and mutual support within our community. By leveraging the existing skills and resources in our community, we can create a space where residents come together to share, repair, and contribute to a more sustainable way. So I hope you all support this motion. Thank you so much.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. That's the end of our formalised business for tonight, but before you do pack up, I just would like to acknowledge the passing of a former staff member of this council. On behalf of the council, I wish to express my condolences to the family on behalf of this council for the sad passing of Wendy Parsons, a former employee of this council for 35 years. Wendy commenced here at Burnside in 1976, supporting the city engineers, city planners and building surveyors throughout her career. Wendy resigned from the City of Burnside in 2010 and was a respected member and a really worshipped member of this Burnside Council team. And I wanted to make sure that the family received those condolences from our council. Thank you, and that is all for tonight. I will close this meeting at 7:58 p.m.